This is the SaaS Playbook, a podcast where we unpack the real stories behind founders, operators, and leaders building in technology. Today's episode is brought to you by Hera Digital, helping founders build predictable sales engines and smarter revenue systems. If you'd like a free consult, comment engine and someone will reach out to you. In this episode, we're joined by Lucky Gobindram. I'm sorry if I butchered that, Lucky, founder of Kinemeric, building at the intersection of spatial computing and AI for enterprise. Lucky has previously built and exited companies and is now focused on developing emerging technology platforms designed for enterprise adoption. In today's conversation, we're going to explore what it actually takes to build in fast-moving categories beyond the buzzwords. Lucky, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jenny.
So, just a few steps back, even before Kinemeric, Lucky, you've built and exited before. What are you intentionally doing different this time with Kinemeric?
I think we've evolved a lot and learned a lot over the last 15 plus years. So it's not me, myself. I have a co-founder, Ash, and another one named Andrew. Ash and me have been building together since we were kids. He's my elder brother. He serves as CEO. I serve as president, right? And, we today are, building systems that change behavior rather than building experiences, right? Traditionally in the past, we've built agencies, innovation labs, things like that nature that were building experiences, right? And it was things that were more one-off, things that were not repeatable, recurring in our flywheel, right? And we've seen great success doing that and being innovators in our domain and spaces and having great know-how doing that, and lending that to enterprises and SMEs and whatnot. But, it's not a one-off project, right? I mean, this is something that creates recurring revenue. You architect those differently, right? And that's part of SaaS, the SaaS angle, right? Continuous improvement loops, behavior data, model tuning, better outcomes. It's a little bit of a different approach, right? The fundamentals of business still stay the same. Good business is good business as always. Some of that's a little bit different.
I respect that. I think you bring a lot of energy into the industry, but not only energy, but experience, which is really respectable.
Thank you.
Now, you did mention as well, we are sort of looking at bootstrapping Kinemeric, so I'd love to dive into that a little bit deeper with you a bit later. But what were the hardest lessons from your previous ventures that shaped how you operate within Kinemeric today?
Man, there's tons of realities you learn from building a business, right? And going through the struggles and pitfalls of that, right? I mean, you're growing fast. It's not always good. Bigger teams don't mean better. And obviously AI's changed and shifted that paradigm where you can be leaner and more efficient. Not all capital is the same or good. There's a number of heartfelt lessons that we've had to learn through battles and through successes and failures, right? No, this moment's very different because AI has changed the game, to be honest with you. I think it allows us to be more superhuman in our reach, especially as guys who are technical, who have know-how, who know how to use the tools around us. It allows us to zoom out, right? And have a bigger vision and allow us to build towards that, honestly.
I think in a weird way, AI has shifted sort of the data-focused, nerdy people to really be on top of the game now. And it's funny how things have shifted, right? And I'm like, yeah, finally, we're having a chance to shine through all the noise. But I like that you mentioned that it does come from its own trials and tribulations. And I think that's what builds resilience in entrepreneurs. But what makes a true entrepreneur is coming back for it every time. I think there's something intrinsically maybe a little bit wrong with us where we're like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. You knock down 10 times, you get up 11, right? So there's the name of the game.
You keep swinging until something lands eventually.
So pivoting, right? It's like, not everything is going to work in business, right? But there's always something to be learned when you're building things, right? Especially if you have a good core team, you learn together, right? And you have deep conversations and you assess what's going on. And then you look for the lessons within it, and then you pivot towards them, right? You optimize towards them. And then you see what's working, what's not working, right? It's business. I think, you're gonna fail. It's just the reality of it. And it's even like being a kid, right? I tell my children the same thing. It's like, okay, you're gonna get knocked down, bro. Get up. And the harder you get knocked down, the harder you get up. It's just the reality.
Yeah, there's those processes through the entrepreneurial journey that Alex Hormozi talks about really well, and how there's optimism at the start, Then you go down to the valley of despair because you realize it's not as good as everyone thought, like made it out to be. Then you have informed optimism. So now you know what to expect. And then eventually you'll peak. But you have to go through those processes to get to obviously success. And just basically just summarizing what you just said in more of a visual aspect. But building in emerging tech cannot be easy. Let's first and foremost put that out there. But in spatial computing and AI, what mindset shift is critical for founders to survive volatility?
Man, it's been, we've been building in spatial computing and XR and even AI for over a decade, right? I've seen this from the cardboard VR and the Gear VR to like the Quest 2, the Quest 3, where it was 3 DOF to 6 DOF. And, we've seen the paradigm shift, right? And first off, designing for it's different. Designing for 2D is very different. Designing for 3D is very different, right? We live in 3D is the truth, right? So you got to think about this as humans and what our interactions are. But I think there is a lot to be learned from what people and human are and what human nature is and what our human interactions are and what resonates in that way. So that's step one. It's like you design differently for 3D versus 2D, right? And we've seen, first off, it's always been like, this is going to be XR's year. This is going to be the shift in paradigm. It's not like that, right? It's like, people used to say that like, all the previous technologies failed too, right? It's like, because everybody expects instant adoption, right? And it's not going to be that way. Not with spatial, not with AI. It's not real to believe those things and think that that's actually the case, right? And I don't think people realize, okay, if you think about like a gaming system, right? Not that say XR is gaming, but if you look at it, the adoption curve versus other mediums of gaming, it's much further, right? And even if you look at it on a curve of XR and like the PC adoption, it's quite similar, right? But the mobile phone sort of changed our perception because everybody got one instantaneously and had a supercomputer in their pocket, so they expect that, right? But it's not going to be that. And like you got to understand the growth curve, and you got to build towards that in the truth, right? And then you also got to think like, okay, I was looking and reading this yesterday around AI, right? And like if you think about AI, right, a recent global snapshot of AI usage highlights just how early adoption it still is. Around 84% of the world's population has never used AI at all, right? While roughly 16% have used free AI tools, right? And only a small fraction, about 0.3%, pay for AI services. And even a smaller share, about 0.04%, use it for more advanced tasks like coding or learning or things like that. So when you start combining two emerging technologies, like we're talking about, XR and AI, and the adoption curve for that, we're really early on in Kinemeric, right? We're looking at things from a very unique perspective compared to most. And so to think that all of a sudden we're going to hit this inflection point where we got masses using it is unrealistic, right? I mean, you got to think about where it adds the most value. And, sort of sometimes I think about it, it's like we got to be like cockroaches surviving the nuclear disaster, right? It's like, you gotta sustain and you gotta be able to find those inroads. And, you can't be disheartened by not hitting like the year of like hyper growth to the moon, right? I hope that answers your question, but that's sort of where my mindset is when I think our organization's mindset is as we build.
Yeah. What you touched on there is more to do with longevity of the business as well, because you are building something that's not really ever been created before. So there has to be some grace and there has to be some leniency in terms of the roadmap to move forward for Kinemeric, I would assume. But I mean, that kind of segues perfectly into my next question, right? For people out there who have no idea what Kinemeric is or UX and how does that overlap with AI, how do you clearly explain what Kinemeric does without leaning on the buzzwords, and what sort of problem does it really truly solve?
Okay. So let me think about this in a couple different facets for you. We built enterprise grade embodied AI systems, right? Not demos, not novelty XR, measurable training, simulation, and customer engagement platforms, right? We don't build experiences. We build systems that change behavior. Okay. And to clarify that, AI driven characters, believable humans is like what we like to coin it, in spatial environments of mixed reality or virtual reality, analytics and measurable outcomes, and enterprise integrations of LMSs, CRMs, compliance systems.
From a person looking out, And I mean, I've only known about Kinemeric since we spoke last time. What type of use cases do you really foresee it making a big impact at enterprise level?
So I think most enterprises have to train people in soft skills, whether that be sales, whether that be HR and managing people within the organization, or it could be as simple as, a more common example is like, hey, we all go to retail and we've all been in, choose your favorite retailer. Cartier, Louis Vuitton, Bloomingdale's, Macy's, whatever you may have it, right? And that sales rep has to know how to deal with that customer, right? Whether that customer is a high net worth individual, whether that customer is disgruntled, whatever it may be, right? So these systems that we build, I think, are very focused on soft skills. How do you talk to people, right? Whether it be small talk and warming up a conversation, whether it be closing a sale, whether it be teaching somebody about a product and product education, right? So all those assets, I think, is very real, right? And it goes beyond that, right? Soft skills is, like I said, HR, right? Like you go to complain to your boss that I got looked over for that promotion. How does the boss respond to it? How is he prepared to have that conversation with you? Or whatever more complex conversations you may have internally in the organization.
And I guess, again, from a completely sort of green perspective, do you sort of foresee there be pushback in terms of, hey, that's why we have humans. Why would we not let the HR department handle the complaints regarding the promotion that you didn't go for? Like, what was sort of the mind frame going into this and saying, hey, I think that businesses or enterprise need it at this level?
So I think a human still handles that, right? You're still going to go talk to a human if you go complain because that human is the HR leader, right? But that HR leader at that enterprise is now better prepared to have that conversation because he's done role play in headset or in mixed reality and learned how to deal with that situation that you're going to come complain to him. So he knows how to have a more educated conversation around there and a more skilled conversation around, right? So I don't think this replaces the human, right? I think this creates more value for the human so he can do a better job, right? And to be honest with you, there's not enough humans, a lot of times in these organized enterprises to train the people, right? And they hit an inflection point where they can't scale fast enough or they can't get to enough people to upskill their people. Okay. So that's part of the problem, right? Also, human trainers are good, but like I said, they have bandwidth limitations. They also have bad days. There's also a lack of consistency in messaging, and the enterprise suffers because of that. Whether it be in training how to sell the product or training to deal with the human capital within the organization or another use case, right? It could be simplified as like, we have hospital systems that are trying to figure out how to intake patients, right? And we're doing it in that way, like training them on patient intake. We have, you know, roofing companies that sell shingles on teaching companies how to sell shingles. We have, police departments learning how to do de-escalation training. Instead of resorting to a taser or a gun, they know how to use words to de-escalate that person who may be upset and have a knife on them and may be at risk, but doesn't need to be hurt. He needs to be calmed down, right? And what do you say in those situations, right? There's a number of use cases of where we're tapping into soft skills that require conversation in action, right? And I think that's across the stack, many different things from government to education to enterprise.
Yeah, to anything really. And the reason why it resonates so much, Lucky, is I was teaching one of my staff members how to cold call, and she's never done it in her entire life. Poor thing. She was hot, like she was rattling. She was so scared to do it right. But I feel like if we had adopted something like Kinemeric where we can sort of give the small little nuggets here and there to give that type of knowledge, to give that exposure over time, that'll help quite significantly. From a sales perspective, I can see that training and the soft skills that they need to have essentially prior to even starting a sales role would be super, super beneficial just from the sales perspective.
And I got to ask you, right? And I'll flip the script and ask you a question for a second. Was it awkward for her as she did that with you?
She hated it, but I said, hey, the only way you can get through it is to do it.
Yeah.
I made her do it eventually, but I think, like you said as well, I'm going to have, like, for example, the trainer's going to have bad days. You're going to only receive one perspective if it's a one-on-one. So I think not only does it provide and guide within the soft skills itself, but it helps with communication, which a lot of people lack in this day and age, unfortunately, in the age of AI. So in terms of longevity speaking, beyond our time and our lifetime, perhaps, that's something that could be multiplied and really make a huge difference.
1,000%. I agree. Well, I think that's obvious.
You've sold me, Lucky. So I don't know, where can I sign up? So in enterprise AI adoption now, which you would obviously be abreast of, where are you seeing biggest friction when it comes to alignment, budget, internal capability, or sort of something completely different when we talk about implementing Kinemeric?
So I think enterprises don't buy XR, hard truth, right? They buy reduced onboarding time. They buy fewer safety incidents. They buy higher sales conversion. They buy better retention, right? So when we go in to meet an enterprise, we focus on things like that, right? So we're benchmarking against traditional training or replacing expensive live simulations or standardizing global knowledge transfer, right? So when we're looking at the enterprise, we try to anchor with percent time reduction or cost avoidance, a performance lift, and this is where we differentiate in our conversation with them, right? So this is sort of how we position it from cool tech to enterprise ROI that's making enterprises be like, oh, we should consider this. We should change how we're doing this, right? And this is how we're shifting the conversation and paradigm, and helping them understand what this is.
It will take a fair few conversations to get there, but I think once people are able to see it and feel it and experience it, that's when it's truly going to make a big, significant impact for Kid America. Where can I go to see it, Lucky? Unfortunately, I can't find the States right at this point in time, but I would love to obviously see a demo or something like in the future.
For sure. I mean, we do live demos sometimes for people that don't have headsets. In the plenty of enterprise, sometimes we ship them headsets so they can try it. Videos are good, but they don't do the same thing. There's nothing like you said, nothing like experiencing, right? Being in headset or doing it yourself and trying to sell gutters or de-escalate. It's real. It's a mindset shift.
Yeah. So if they wanted to experience Kid America, or at least go and to have a feel for it, play with the hardware itself, where can they find you and Kid America next?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can go to Kinemeric on LinkedIn. They can find Lucky Gobindram on LinkedIn. They could find me on X. I'm very active on there, posting all kinds of stuff. They go to Kinemeric's website and reach out to us. Or depending on what you're trying to do and what you're building and what your needs are, we are happy to dive deeper. We're crossing paths. We're in the same city. We're all over the globe all the time. We'll meet you and we'll show it to you, or we'll send you a device and let you try it. We also have videos, like I said, seeing is believing. Get in a headset and trying it. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. Couldn't say. Before I ask the last question, Lucky, how do you prevent people from running into walls and getting too into the experience? How do you stop them from doing that we've seen online so many times?
Honestly, our devices are really good, right? When you use a Quest or a Vision Pro or a Galaxy XR, it knows its boundaries, right? So it'll tell you you're about to hit a wall, right? It's pretty damn good. So we actually haven't seen people run into things, thankfully. I think that's a more of a legacy thing with some of the older devices, but the modern hardware we're using, it's pretty damn good. It knows your boundaries.
Okay, that's good. That's good because I think when it comes, especially to the older generation, that's sort of what we see on a daily, like on a more frequent basis. So that's what our brain associates it with. But you did say that you guys will be on certain shows this year. So please, this is your time to let the people in the audience know where you will be next, so they can go and experience it on their for their.
So yeah, we are traveling all over the globe this year, and we'll be demoing in a lot of places and speaking on stages. So April 14th, 15th, we'll be in San Francisco at Immerse Global Summit, which will be at the Verizon Innovation Lab in San Francisco. We'll be at Augmented World Expo later this year in Long Beach. Then we'll be at Augmented Enterprise Summit later this year in Atlanta. We'll also be at Tyson, North Carolina, the training industry summit down there. So those are just four of the few, or a handful of the ones that we will be at. But we'll be at many more. Follow along on socials. Send me a message. I'm happy to tell you where we're next. And we're always in New York. We're headquartered in New York. I like to say New York is Mecca of the world. It's the heartbeat. So if you're ever in New York, come meet us at our offices. Come hang out with us. Come try it out. We'd love to see you and meet you.
Any chance you'll be heading in the Southern Hemisphere anytime soon?
Southern Hemisphere. Where do you got in mind?
Western Australia?
I don't have plans to be in Perth, Australia. I would love to come to Melbourne and Sydney, but we don't have an excuse to come yet. But if we get one, we'll be there. I mean, we're certainly interested in hanging out at Bondi Beach.
I mean, also, would love to go and experience it and meet you there. So hopefully the event gods will shine down on us at some point.
You let me know. I'll be there.
Alrighty, Lucky, one last question for you before we close off this episode. In the next 12 months, if things go exactly to plan, what milestone would signal that you validated the direction of the business?
I think the biggest thing that we're looking for in the next 6 to 12 months is getting to a revenue number that we believe is of scale to us, right? In year one, we've hit several million USD already, instrumenting and deploying to enterprises, and it's only been a handful of them. But, you know, we think that this moment is different, because adoption is growing fast for us. And we think that if we are able to get to a scale where we believe the future of enterprise software is experiential, intelligent, or enterprises believe the same things we see and are talking about it the same way we are, and they're thinking differently, then that's monumental to us, right? So like today, we are the ones that are out there screaming from the mountaintops. We want people to be screaming on the mountaintops for us, right? And I think that's the trigger point where it's no longer us and people are telling the next person about it, and that's triggering it, right? Than us triggering it. I hope that we're doing, you know, 25 million USD ARR in the next 12 months, and I think it will be a very different conversation. I think then it'll start snowballing.
It's funny that you've mentioned that because I think ultimately a lot of people look at that as soon as we stop talking about our business is how we've known we've truly grown. But it's tricky in that sort of aspect is it's really hard to measure. How do we know that people are talking about us outside of referrals? So I would love to hear your perspective on that as well. It's actually quite difficult to measure and grow or scale that component of referrals per se, because it's super unpredictable.
100%. Referrals are good, but it is unpredictable. When you turn on a SaaS business, Jenny, and like we haven't done a self-serve model yet, right? Today, it's still very much like people come to us, we instrument it, and the core tech is our core tech, and we keep using the same tech, but there's a little bit of instrumentation to deploy it in enterprise, right? But like when we turn open the floodgates, and this is now a self-serve thing, and we see people signing up and it's happening organically, I think it'll be a very interesting inflection point for us, right? I think for us, if we zoom out, right, SaaS won't live on dashboards. It will live in environments. Employees will train with AI, right? Customers will interact with brand avatars. AI will become embodied. And Kinemeric is building for that world, right? And I think when we see this becoming more self-serve and people see the same things we see, right? And it's like, scaling automatically, I think that's when I'll know, okay, this is really sticky at a different level than what we see now, right? And that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for that K factor of growth, right? And I think as most SaaS businesses are, that growth curve is a big indicator of success, right? Where it's a hockey stick rather than something that's referrals, right? It's just like that inflection point. So, I mean, we have goals that we're hoping will trigger that and levers that we hope will trigger that when we can self-serve. I think we are yet to open the floodgates, right? So I can't say that definitively yet, but within the next 6 months to 8 to 9 months, we are going to open the floodgates, right? And I think that will be the real moment of truth.
Yeah, agreed. And let's sort of see where it all lands, and let's see if we can bump into each other in Sydney or Melbourne sometime. But that's it for us in this episode. But Lucky, thank you for taking the time and sharing your perspective, especially around building an emerging technology where the pace of change can easily outstrip strategy. If you're interested in spatial computing, enterprise AI adoption, or following what Kinemeric is building next, or currently building, I should say, we'll include Lucky's details in the show notes below, or you can reach out to him directly on his LinkedIn or X profiles, which we'll also link down below for you. But in the meantime, keep building meaningfully.